Hi, this is Julie Wong from Mighty Hands. Welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to show you how to stamp in your journal. I'm focusing on the stamping today, but if you'd like to find out more about the system that I use to set up this journal, which is called bullet journaling, I'll put a link in the description box below. I started this business because the Lord put in my heart the desire to share the love of God and share His Word through crafting. So at Mighty Hands, we design faith-filled products for paper crafting, such as photopolymer, stamps, and craft dies, and these products are made in the USA. I'm starting this journal because we're heading into the busy year end, and I would like to have something to keep me on track with God's promises, God's plan, and God's mission for my business and the rest of my life. As a person who likes to write things down on random pieces of paper, I figured that a notebook would be a good tool for this. So my goal with this journal is to learn how to walk with Jesus and to adjust to His yoke. He says in Matthew 11:30, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." So if I'm feeling stressed out with too many things to do, not getting enough sleep, then I know that I need to check in with Jesus to find out what it is that I can change. To start bullet journaling, all you need is a blank notebook. I have a dot grid notebook from Klosh. It's from the Morandi collection, which is faith-based. You'll also need your favorite pens and markers, and of course, in our case, ink pads, stamps, and some watercolor paint. I've gone ahead and created the basic sections in my bullet journal, and now what we're going to do is set up the cover page. For the cover page, which sets the tone for my entire journal, I'm going to use this large stamp, His Mercies Are New Every Day, from our new Faith, Hope, Love stamp set. I'm really excited about this new stamp set because it's perfect for making cards, also for Bible journaling, and then stamping in your planner, so it's really versatile. I'm inking up this large stamp with blue at the top and green at the bottom. In the middle, they'll overlap and create this really pretty turquoise color that I think is really nice. And I've just started using these ink pads, and I have to say I'm liking them a lot. They remind me very much of my Tsukineko pigment ink pads. These are Sachihata Iramoyu ink pads. They're a Japanese brand, so the colors don't really have English names, so I'll just put the link in the description box below. So this is a pretty big stamp, and it fits exactly onto our medium acrylic block. So my tips for getting a good image when you stamp with a large stamp like this is to first of all make sure you ink it up really well, check that it's fully covered, and secondly make sure that you press it down firmly and do not rock it like I'm doing right here, and you'll be able to get a good image. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, but if you think it's too light, you want it to be darker, or if you even would like to create sort of a drop shadow effect, what you can do is just stamp on it another time. You have to look carefully straight down into the stamp, and then you can stamp again in the same position. Or if you want it to be offset, just stamp it a little bit offset. Earlier I explained why I'm making this journal, and I really like this verse, which is Lamentations 3:22-23. "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end, and they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." Because this is kind of like a to-do list kind of book. So every day is a new day, and I don't have to get upset about things I didn't get done yesterday or something that didn't work out yesterday. Because I'm the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, I have His mercy and His grace every day, and it's new every day, just like the children of Israel had new manna every day, and they weren't supposed to keep it for the next day because it rotted, but they were supposed to go and get their new manna every single day. So we can start each day afresh and expect it to be a good day because our Father in heaven loves us. To complete this page, I'm going to stamp some hearts and crosses, and then we'll do some paint splatter, so I just want to keep it nice and simple. So these ink pads don't really bleed through the page, but there is a bit of ghosting if this is something that matters to you. I'm using my Koi metallic watercolors to add a splatter to the background. For splatter, you can use any watercolor paints you like. You can use brush pens that are water-based, or you could use dye ink pads or distress ink pads. Basically, all you have to do is just get some kind of ink and add water to it so that it's liquid enough to use a paintbrush to splatter onto your project. I covered the stamped image with a post-it note to prevent it from getting splattered. Ink splatter is a technique I use all the time in card making, and it's just something I do every time I want a page to look a little bit more lively and have a bit more movement, but without adding too much extra to the page. I really like the metallics in this watercolor set. They can look kind of vintagey and toned down, which is usually what my color palette looks like, and you can just mix them up even if on their own they look a bit bright. Just mix them up with another color and you'll be able to tone them down. I'm using a rag with water to clean off my stamps, so just rub the stamps and you'll be able to get this particular ink off quite easily. Now I'm going to stamp my October cover page. So one of the most important things in my walk with God is growing in my personal relationship with Him and being aware of His presence at all times. So the interesting thing is that in Psalm 139, God is basically telling us that He's always with us, no matter whether we're having a good time or we're having a bad time. In fact, we can't actually escape from His Spirit. I also know from the scriptures that once I'm born again, the Holy Spirit has already come to dwell inside me. So as a child of God, it's really up to me to be sensitive to the Lord's promptings and leadings. So that's why I'd like to have a reminder of this in my journal. When I was thinking about what to put for my October cover page, the story about the vine and the vine dresser in John 15 came to me. The words abide in me stood out, so I'm going to stamp this large grape from the Fruit of the Spirit set, and next to it, abide in me with our 2 alpha stamp sets. This grape is one of the largest stamps we have, so I'm going to put it on a large acrylic block, which is 10 centimeters. So once again, I'm using multiple ink colors on one stamp. It's something that's easier to do on a really large stamp like this. So I've got the purple for the grapes, and I've got green for the leaves, and brown for the branch. You can also use your finger to wipe off ink from any areas you don't want it on, and then go back over with the color that you do want to ink it up with. Here are some tips for using multiple ink pads on one stamp. So it's much easier to do if you have a large stamp. And you could either apply the ink with a sponge or an ink dauber, or you could apply it directly from the ink pad. If you're using the ink pad directly, make sure to check the surface of the ink pad and its size. By looking at the shape of the ink pad surface, you'll be able to see whether it'll stamp with a harsh line or whether it'll be a soft line. My Sachihata Iramoyu ink pads here do not have a rectangular surface. So the edges actually gradually slope down on the side, and it's not a rectangular edge. This is going to make it easier to not get a harsh line in between different colors when you apply the ink onto a stamp. There are also different shapes of ink pads. There's a Tsukuneko ink pad that's a teardrop shape, and so it has a pointy edge, which makes it a little bit easier as well to apply ink into smaller areas. So let's finish off the rest of this page. I'm going to stamp Abide in Me using our Outline and Script Alpha stamp sets. Since this is a really short phrase, I can just go ahead and arrange the stamps on the page and see how it looks. For a longer verse where I have to look at composition, layout, and whether there's enough room to stamp all the letters onto the page, I would definitely do a test page, so I'll stamp everything out on a separate piece of paper just to make sure it all looks okay before stamping the final version into my journal. I really enjoy alpha stamp sets because they allow me to stamp exactly what I want to say when I don't feel like using my brush pen. So I wrote Handwritten Alpha, which is why it's called Handwritten Alpha, and it's designed to go together with Outline Alpha. So whenever you need to make the words look a bit bigger, you need it to fill up more space on a page, you can use them together. And of course you can use them separately as well. So it's always fun to color in the Outline Alphas. You could color them in ombre, or you could do some other fun techniques with them. The other thing that I really like about these alpha stamp sets is that they're designed to be kind of quirky and wiggly, so you don't have to worry about getting everything straight, and it kind of looks cute if it's not straight actually. So it's really easy to stamp and create phrases that look fun and not too stiff. If you want to stamp them together, stamp Outline Alpha first to get the spacing right, and then stamp Handwritten Alpha inside. So just look right through your clear stamp and acrylic block and just stamp right inside. Now I'm just adding the month with my Energel pen tool pen. Here I've just sped up the stamping of the letters inside the outline alpha. Just like earlier, I'm going to do some splatter on the grapes to make them look a little bit more lively. And I put some post-it notes on the grapes just to cover or mask them so that the splatter doesn't get onto the grapes themselves. I'm not going to color in my grapes, but you can definitely color them in with colored pencils, brush markers, watercolor pencils, whatever you feel like doing. Now I'm just going around the rest of the pages and stamping some accent florals. And I'm using the hand-drawn florals from the Jesus Heals stamp set to decorate this section. In case you're interested, I used a brush pen from Zebra, the mild liner, the blue one, and also a brown Pentel Energel pen to do the basic layout for my journal. I'm using Tsukineko Classique pigment ink in Misty Blue for the stamping because this color really matches the blue mild liner brush pen well. I'm also using the little flowers from our God is Good stamp set, and we're going to be using the stamp set again on our daily page. One thing I really want to do with my journal is have a word of the day or verse of the day. So whether it's something that just comes to my heart as I'm reading, or it's something that I hear from the Lord, or perhaps someone shares something with me and it really sort of resonates with me on that day, I want to put it in my journal right at the front so that I can remember it. So in our stamp sets, we have tons of small verses like this, and so this is really helpful for adding verses to your journal. So I'm done with the basic setup of this journal, and I can just continue adding sections and decorating as I go along. So all our stamps and products are linked in the description box below, and you can check out our website to purchase our stamps. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Before I go, I'd like to thank each and every one of you who has been supporting our business for the past 2 years. I really appreciate your encouragement, prayers, and purchases from our store, and I'd love to see what you're doing with our products to water yourself as well as to water others. So make sure to tag us on your projects, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and God bless the work of your hands.